Hey everybody, it's Grady at Twin Creek Audio, back in the studio today, and today I wanted to share with you some tips on getting the most out of inexpensive electronic drums, like my Simmons SD100 kit that I really like. So first off, I want to talk about some practical tips. Use a drum stool, a real drum stool, or some kind of a stool. Don't do like I've done in some of the videos where I just sit in my chair. I was just being lazy. It plays a lot better if you have a regular drum throne, then you don't have any arms or wheels on the bottom, for goodness sake. And I was playing in that thing, I can't believe it. But that's a good tip. Also, the type of drumsticks that you use is pretty important. For these, I don't need a big heavy stick. I like these lighter, thinner sticks with a wooden tip, and they're not going to do as much damage to the pads, and they're easier to control. And this is a small kit anyway, so I really don't want a big stick getting in my way. So those are a couple practical tips. And getting on to the sound of them, if you've got electronic drums and you don't have any drum samples, a good way to make the built-in sounds in your electronic drum kit sound better is to run them through some kind of analog device like a mixer or whatever you've got laying around. This adds a little bit of saturation to the sound. Saturation's not necessarily distortion or overdrive, it's a non-linearity in the signal. But the term comes from back in the days of transformers, where the signal would be so great that it would saturate the transformer. So that's saturation, and that's what gives things kind of an analog flavor. So run your inexpensive electronic drums like these SD100s. You can run the built-in sounds through something like that. I mean, even an old 4-track, which is probably going to give you kind of a lo-fi sound, but if you're using the built-in sounds in something like this, maybe you're looking for quirky or something that's unusual anyway, but adding that layer of analog saturation will make even a quirky or kind of cheesy drum sound bigger and more professional and like you did it on purpose. And I think that's pretty cool. So I'm going to start out with that, how to get some analog saturation on your drum tracks. And for these SD100s, you need something like this. This is a typical Y cable, a tip ring sleeve 1/4 inch, and 2 TS jacks on the other end. It's an insert cable or Y cable, whatever you want to call it. But in this case, the SD100 only has an 1/8 inch mini output. It has a headphone output as well, but in order to avoid any kind of weird things happening with the signal, I'm going to use the line out and plug it into some classy outboard gear. And you'll need an adapter like this. This is just a Radio Shack 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch TRS. On the front of the SD100s, just underneath the hi-hat and to the left of the first tom, is the headphone output and the level control for that. Got a Radio Shack adapter here. Plug that in like that. We're going to take the other end of our cable and plug into the inputs on the front of the HRK C2584 stereo color processor. This processes line level signals like what we're getting out of the SD100, and you can install various color module cards. Can you see those in there? This unit, I've got 2 of the HRK DOPA op amp cards and 2 of their transformer line driver cards. So we've got some transformers in this box to run the Simmons SD100 built-in sounds through. Here on the front of it, we've got adjustments for the input and output for each side, and these switches turn the color modules on and off. So I'm going to do a test with the built-in kit number 3 on the SD100s with all the modules turned off first. Now I'm going to turn them on. On program number 6 from the built-in sounds for some kind of 80s electronic drum sounds. Hip, man. It's really hip. On program number 8 for some world music percussion sounds. As I was saying earlier, it doesn't have to be something like the HRK stereo color processor. It can be any kind of interesting, good sounding analog gear you have, or bad sounding analog gear that you have, depending on the sound you're going for. Going kind of in that direction, I've got the Simmons SD100s connected now to the Soundtrack's Topaz on 2 line inputs of 2 channels. So we're going to hear what they sound like using the built-in sounds through. This is a pretty nice console, but it's not the color modules, and there's no transformers in this console or anything. This was made in '96, and it does have really good mic preamps, but they're based on an IC chip. There's no transformers or any discrete circuitry in this console. So let's see what these sound like going through, a pretty mid to high level home studio console. Gonna run this into the Topaz now. Over here on channel 7 and 8, I just plugged that insert cable into 7 and 8. Oh, there they are. And there's the gain on those. And I've got the faders down here set, sending that level to the audio interface. I really liked the built-in kit number 8 with the world music, the percussion instruments, and the Simmons SD100. So I've set that to that kit now, again going through the Soundtrack's Topaz line inputs and then into the audio interface for recording. Well, I hope you found this informative and useful. Couple little tips about electronic drums and hearing the Simmons SD100 through some different analog devices. And again, you can use anything. You could run this through your Mackie that you've got in the basement that you haven't used since you were doing your coffee shop gigs a few years ago. I mean, whatever you want, any kind of analog circuit, you know, especially if you've got some EQ and you want to boost the low end or tweak the sound of it a little bit, you know, it may help it sound good. It may not, you know, it may not work for you, but from what I'm hearing, even the built-in sounds on an inexpensive electronic kit like this sound better when you run it through some cool analog circuitry. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a wonderful day, night, weekday, weekend, hour, minute, second, nanosecond, whatever it is you're having. Have a good one, and don't forget to like and subscribe.